Now, David Cameron's former press secretary and the woman who ran Rupert Murdoch's newspaper empire in Britain are facing charges of making corrupt payments to officials. Andy Coulson and Rebecca Brooks were among 5 people accused by the Crown Prosecution Service of conspiracy to commit misconduct in public office. Well, I'm joined now by our Home Affairs correspondent, Andy Davies. Let's start with Andy Coulson. What's happened to him today?
Well, more criminal charges facing the former News of the World editor and, until last January, David Cameron's Director of Communications. Andy Coulson was today charged with Clive Goodman, the former News of the World royal editor, with effectively conspiring to pay officials for information about the royal family. In particular, it's alleged that they tried to get hold of something called the Green Book, which in Buckingham Palace is a confidential internal phone directory. So serious allegations against Mr. Coulson, who's seen here leaving a police station in South London earlier today. And of course, they come after Andy Coulson was charged earlier this year in London with phone hacking and earlier this year in Glasgow with perjury in a case relating to the former Scottish socialist MSP Tommy Sheridan.
Has Andy Coulson said anything today?
A brief but unambiguous statement. He says that he's extremely disappointed by the latest CPS decision, that he denies the allegations against him, and he will fight the charges in court.
Well, that's Andy Coulson. Now, what about Rebecca Brooks and the new charges that she's now facing?
Yes, again, allegations relating to illegal payments, but a different context, this time involving the Sun newspaper. Rebecca Brooks, who edited The Sun at one point, is charged alongside John Kay, a veteran of Fleet Street and The Sun's chief reporter. They're charged alongside a 39-year-old MOD official called Bettina Jordan Barber. And the CPS said today that this alleged conspiracy relates to information allegedly provided by Mrs. Barber for payment, which formed the basis of a series of news stories published by The Sun. It's alleged that approximately £100,000 was paid to Bettina Jordan Barber between 2004 and 2011. Rebecca Brooks, like Andy Coulson, was charged earlier this year with phone hacking. She also faces separate charges of attempting to pervert the course of justice. She's always denied allegations of wrongdoing. I think noteworthy today that this is the first time anyone working at The Sun has been charged in this wider police inquiry, and very striking that it's John Kay who's named, a massive figure at The Sun and one of the biggest names in the business over the last 40 years, and it's got to be said, one of the most acclaimed names in the business.
And when you think about who knows who here, you've got to say none of this looks very good for the Prime Minister, does it?
Well, it's like one of those irritable pebbles in the shoe for him that he just can't shake out. Every time this comes up, and it comes up fairly frequently, he faces questions about, awkward questions about his judgment, about whether he got too close socially to Rebecca Brooks, too close professionally to Andy Coulson. And he was asked today whether all of this reflected badly on him, and this is what he had to say.
I've made it clear a regret on many occasions about this issue. I've also said very clearly that we should allow the police and the prosecuting authorities to follow the evidence wherever it leads, and I think that's very, very important.
And it's got to be said, there is a long way to go here, because there are dozens of others out there, other suspects, among them journalists, prison officers, police officers, waiting to hear whether they face charges in Operation Elvedon. And then we've got, within the next 2 weeks, we're expecting Lord Justice Leveson to deliver his report on media standards, and that certainly won't be a fleeting or quiet affair.
And you'll be back in here telling us more before we know it. Thank you, Andy.